Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into episode 2 of the RFI cast. It's probably my 10th or 15th time recording this intro. It's incredibly hard to sit down and record an intro and not stutter or fill it with a billion ums. But I did want to take some time and thank you for listening. This is episode 2 and it's with Andros and Nguyen, and we're going to talk a little bit. It's titled Escape. We're going to get into why that is. It's a bit of a passion of his. Moving forward, I'm going to break up the episodes into parts A and B. A is going to be about learning a little bit more about the engineer and their background, and then B is going to get into what makes them special or what extracurricular activity that they do. So, like I said, episode 2A is with Andros and Nguyen. It's about escape rooms. Andros is not related to Kevin Nguyen, who was episode 1 in Fresh Out of College, which, if you haven't heard it yet, I highly recommend it. That I think is the first podcast that I recorded, and you get a perspective of Kevin, who is, at the time was a little fresher out of college, but now I think he's got a couple years in. But it's a really good perspective on transitioning from college to the workplace, utilizing what you learned or not utilizing what you learned from college. So I think it provides a fresh perspective. If obviously you're listening to this, so maybe you're listening online from a webpage or a link, but this podcast is also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and any other podcast player that you may run into. So this episode 2 with Andros, I met Andros at Jacobs Engineering, 2 or 3 years back. We were both playing, we have a league, J-Ball is what it's called, for Jacobs, and we play in the summer months when there's a little bit more daylight. It's pretty much from daylight saving time to daylight saving time. And one day I overheard his story about his passion for escape rooms, and I thought it was fascinating, and I wanted to share it with all my listeners, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm actually recording this intro in mid-September, so we're about 6 months into the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that, this interview was done virtually. The actual interview with Andros was done earlier in the year, but because of some technical challenges and then also everybody being a little busy, I've had a little bit of a delay on this, but finally ready to release it. And over the next couple weeks, I'll be releasing part B. So this will be 2A, and then the other episode will be 2B. So without further ado, here's episode 2A with Andros and Nguyen, Escape. All right, so today on the podcast, I have Andros and Nguyen. Say hi, Andros.
Hello, everyone.
We're doing this as completely digital and virtual. We're for those of you listening, we're not in the same room together. It's in early June, and we're still in more or less lockdown due to COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing with COVID-19, by the way?
So far I'm all right. I mean, it could be a lot worse, but because of the situation, I mean, being able to work from home is nice, being able to appreciate like my time and what's important, and there were some good lessons that came out of this experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's typically, with when you commute into work and then you commute home and then you have to go get lunch in the middle of work, there's kind of a lot of time saved, depending especially on where you live.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how long your commute is now, but like mine's like typically a half hour, so that saves right off the bat like an hour every day.
Hmm.
You find yourself working more now that you don't have to commute?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess that depends. Like generally speaking, when a project is starting or when work is light, I find myself working less. However, when there's a deadline or a project is nearing its completion, I actually find myself working more.
Yeah.
Like when I wake up, it's straight into my computer. It's a 30-second commute, and I'm working right away.
Yeah, it is kind of nice. Are you dressing up in a suit and tie every day?
Uh, um,
Or
to be
more
honest, no.
sweatpants and a t-shirt?
It's more towards like casual wear.
Yeah.
Probably pajamas on some days.
Are you doing a lot of video I guess video calls with all your teammates and all that?
Yeah, we check up on each other every now and then. We have a weekly video conference call just to update each other on projects and also like what's going on in our lives and stuff like
Well,
that.
that's good. And you kind of have this unique experience because you just started at your current job. I think you were telling me a
Cor
couple days before the shutdown happened, right?
Yeah, correct. In fact, my second day of work it was when Orange County initiated the shelter in place order. So that was quite a memorable week actually.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's almost like you showed up for a couple days and you could have been working, anywhere in the world for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Are
Uh,
they are they talking about you guys going back into the office anytime soon?
yes. In fact, my company has actually started since the beginning of this month to have uh, workers come back in. Right now, we're probably at 25% of our office capacity. The goal is eventually to hit 50%, but no more than 50%. So
For
there
the
will still
time
be
being?
people working from home. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think right now we haven't started going back yet, but when we do go back, they're talking about 25%, um, and then eventually slowly rolling everything out. I think they're gonna bring back people who some people don't have a efficient setup at home, like maybe or
Oh,
maybe
I
they
see.
need like a super powerful desktop computer that I guess they weren't allowed to bring home or for whatever reason, or they got I don't know, uh, a lot of kids or something, and they like, I want to go back into the office. So I think they're gonna give priority to those people who are willing and able to go back, and then people who have, health conditions or whatever, they may let them hang out a little bit longer. But I think it's definitely going to change the whole work. They call it return to workspace, is what I heard today, which I thought was interesting because
Oh, that's
nobody has
interesting.
stopped working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in at my company, some people have been, I guess, a very, very small number of people, like company-wide, have been laid off. Like I would say single digits. Uh,
Are you still there?
oh, hello. Yeah,
There we go.
sorry,
It
my
cut out.
microphone cut off.
No worries.
But there, yeah. But the company's policy is try to retain as many workers as possible. So some people have had their hours reduced, or some people have been furloughed, but not many people have been laid off, fortunately.
Yeah, that's kind of the same over for us as well. We're trying to, both our companies, they make money by selling your hours, right? Or our hours. So it's like if you're not there, they can't charge the client because there's going to be work still. Uh, but it's a totally wild thing, man. Everything kind of stopped um, within a couple weeks. It just died. And it seems like it's starting to come back together, but totally different.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I never thought I would experience this in my lifetime, but I guess for most people, it's new.
I mentioned that to somebody the other day. I'm like, if you told me in 2019, hey, in 2020, we're gonna shut down everything, Like I don't even know if I could picture what that even meant. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I would not believe myself if I told myself that. Like
yeah,
that seems possible.
so strange. I think everyone's over the year 2020 as well.
Yeah, I mean we're halfway through.
And I wonder if the second half's going to get better. I don't know. With the election and all that, it seems like it's there's just gonna be more drama on TV and all that.
Yeah, I mean 2020 is the year of new changes apparently.
Yeah. So we kind of jumped into the COVID, but would you mind kind of giving a maybe introducing yourself? What do you do for work? And then we'll kind of get into your background as an engineer.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Andros, and my background is in electrical engineering. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach in 2014, and I've been working in the design and construction industry for roughly the past 5 years. I currently have my EIT, and I do plan on taking the PE exam this upcoming October. I work as an electrical designer for the time being. What that entails is whenever I work on a project, say the project is designing a new building, I take care of the power system design within that building. So the electric panel boards, the lighting, the circuiting, all of that would fall under my scope.
Wow. See, it's so funny because we work together, but we're in different departments. So I actually we work for the same company, but we never worked together. But it's so
Yeah.
interesting to. I mean, there's so many different fields, you know, and you can touch base. That's really cool. I didn't know you did that for the entire building. That's awesome.
Hmm.
How did
Yeah,
you
it's
get into?
oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go for it.
Oh, nothing. I was just saying that how funny it is that we worked in the same company. Like I think at one point we were working on the same floor, and then we still never worked together on a project.
Yeah, I mean, we've the most you and I know each other is from playing basketball, really, which is kind of funny too. After
Yeah,
hours.
definitely that's another story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
So, how did you get into engineering?
Uh, Ooh, that's a good question. I guess when I was younger, like when going through elementary school, middle school, I always had an affinity for math. I joined math club. I've joined those honor math class. I took the honor math classes, and I really excelled in that area. Same thing with science. And during high school, when I met with my high school counselor, she recommended uh, engineering as a potential career. During that time, I did my own personal research, and that was when I narrowed into electrical engineering because I wanted to learn more about electronics and power, renewable energy, and going through college, that's what I studied, and then I landed in the design and construction industry.
Oh, wow. Was there any point in time during college where you're like, I don't know if I really want to do electrical?
Yeah, twice actually. So the first time I questioned my decision was probably the end of my freshman year. Because at that point I've taken a like only general education classes, and
Yeah.
I took maybe two intro to engineering courses. And at the time, the introduction to engineering courses were interesting, but they were hard. And I wondered, is it worth the the stress and frustration is versus the amount of interest it gives? So that was my first encounter of of like self-reflection on whether or not I wanted to continue engineering. And my second encounter was during my senior year in college, where this was right before I had to do my senior design project. And at that point, it was I've committed 3, 4 years already, and I'm like, this this is hard. This is the rest of my life. Do I actually want to go through with this? Like, if I ever wanted to change, now's the time. Now's the last chance for me to change my major. So
Yeah.
yeah, um, I guess, I mean,
But
in
you pushed through it and you made it.
yeah, I persevered. I stuck with my decision, and I have no regrets. Well, no
If
major regrets.
if you didn't do engineering, what do you think you would have ended up doing?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I guess in college when I was taking general education classes, I found psychology to be very interesting as well. Um, I took a couple psychology classes. I think I took two, and in both classes, I was able to really do well. In fact, if I remember correctly, I set the curve for both classes
Oh wow.
with almost little to no effort. Like and that came from just not just hard work, but also from a genuine interest in the subject.
Yeah, so that's one thing I'm noticing as I do different things, kind of outside of work,
Hmm.
where, like for instance, I did I returned to college, but not how you would think. I did a woodworking class. I built
Oh,
my own cabinet at OCC, Orange Coast College. It's a
oh,
junior
nice.
college for those listening. But man, I was taking notes like I never took notes before because it's with school, you at least for myself, I took notes and you're going through the motions, but you don't necessarily know how it's gonna end, or at
Hmm.
least for me. And once I have an understanding of how the task is done all the way through, then I'm like, oh, I get it now. I'm a little more hesitant in the beginning, but when you're taking this class and your grade doesn't matter, I think I was better at taking notes for that thing than a lot of my college classes.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too. So I also went back to a junior college just to learn computer programming. And what I've noticed is that I'm a lot more diligent in like completing my assignments, doing the readings, doing the homework. Whereas mainly because at this point in my life, at this point in my career, I'm doing it just out of sheer interest. It's mainly a choice. Whereas back then, when I went to college, it was just going through the motions. So
Yeah.
I wasn't as motivated back then versus my level of motivation now. Whereas I know what I want to do, I know what I want to learn, so I want to put in more effort into it.
What are you learning specific programming languages?
Yes. Since the quarantine started, I started learning Python.
Okay, yeah.
Hmm.
And
And this isn't and this isn't for work. This is just as a hobby.
yeah, I was gonna say, you think you'll be able to use it for work at some point?
Um,
I mean, you're still
well,
relatively new to it, so I get that. And it may be more cumbersome to solve a problem through it, but in the future, maybe, right?
um, yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, that was never really my intention to use it for work, but if an opportunity at work came up where a solution involved programming, I definitely would be up for it.
That's pretty cool that you went back for out of sheer like I just want to learn, you
Yeah.
know. Um, have you ever thought about going back to college in regards to like getting You don't have a master's, do you?
Uh, Correct. I do not have a master's currently, but to answer your question, which I think you were gonna ask if I ever plan to go back to school to get my master's.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually went back to school last fall to get my master's. I'm currently at the University of Colorado Boulder to get my master's in electrical engineering. I started last fall, but this year when the quarantine or when the pandemic started, I stopped taking classes just because I wanted to focus on my family, focus on work in the event that something happened. Uh, I I didn't want the weight of school stressing me out.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar aspect. It's not as awesome as yours. I wasn't taking master's electrical engineering classes, but when the pandemic hit, I gave up my diet and I was eating a lot more ice cream. Because to a certain degree, in the beginning, you didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Like, man, I may not make it another 15 days. Who knows? I'm going to eat some more burritos, and in seriousness though, it kind of makes you take into consideration, health and
Hmm.
safety and happiness and what that really means.
Yeah, it's definitely changed my outlook on what I consider to be precious to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I ask everybody kind of a similar set of questions. Are you the first engineer in your family?
No, I'm actually the second. My older brother is a mechanical engineering or is in mechanical engineering, and he's the first. I'm the second.
Gotcha. Was he helpful in kind of guiding you to any certain degree, or if you had questions while you were studying?
Ooh, so I wouldn't say he was helpful, but he was helpful for different reasons. So I guess within my family, between me and my brothers, we kind of have like a somewhat competitive nature.
Yeah.
And if one brother is doing something, I naturally want to be better than him, or I don't want to do the same thing as him. So I guess in that aspect, because my older brother went into mechanical engineering, I knew that I wasn't gonna go into mechanical engineering. So yeah, I guess he did have some influence, but not in the way that you'd expect.
When how much older is he than you?
He's 6 years older than me, so
Okay, so
he's yeah.
you would have been able to kind of look up to him to a certain degree and kind of see him going through the motions ahead of time before you would eventually go through those same motions.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Gotcha. Um, you know, kind of jumping, staying on like the engineering as a profession, and you're still still new. You don't have 45 years experience, but if you had kids, would you recommend engineering, or would you steer them in a different direction?
Hmm. I guess I'd want my kids to. So part of me wants my kids to go into a field that they'll really enjoy to make a difference and contribute to society. But then the personal like father in me also wants them to go into a career field that makes them stable financially. So it's pretty hard. I mean, I'm hoping they grow up to find a mixture of the two.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if it comes down to it, I mean, I would be comfortable if any of my children went into a STEM field.
gotcha. Okay.
But
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that I would imagine so. Kind of the people I've talked to so far had a similar answer. A lot of
Mhm.
times I see, engineers' kids become doctors. So as I go through it, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what it is. Like we almost look to different fields, and you know, oh, I think maybe being a doctor would be cool, or being a lawyer.
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody's ever said the being a lawyer part, but um, so how has your career as an engineer lived up to your expectations of it? Is it different than what you thought of or learned in school?
Um, yeah, I would say it has. I mean, in school, we've only learned the theoretical side of engineering, and for some classes, of course, we do labs, but what I personally do at work is totally different from what I learned in school. The level of detail and thought that goes into designing a building is much more cohesive and strict than designing something on paper because you're taking a test on it. Like making mistakes on exams, no big deal. But making mistakes in real life, like someone could get hurt.
Yeah, and it's not a problem that takes 15 minutes to solve. It's something that will take maybe a couple months, right?
Correct. And it will involve a lot of teamwork, planning, discussion. Um, yeah, totally different. I would say of the things that I learned in school, I probably only use maybe 30% of what I learned in school, like the fundamental knowledge and equations, probably.
Do you find it easier to work on the theoretical problems or on the practical problems?
Hmm.
Or which one
I
do you
find
enjoy more, I guess?
I guess I find it easier to work on the theoretical problems you because you can just make certain assumptions and get away with it. However, I do enjoy doing the practical problems more because they're more realistic. You can't make that many assumptions and you learn more from the practical problems.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I like the theoretical stuff's nice because you get a nice clean answer, right? Because
Definitely.
when you design stuff in the real world, it's never as nice and clean. There's always something that you got to avoid, or
Yeah.
Have you? has any of the stuff you designed, has it been constructed yet?
Yes. So I've been working in the design and construction industry for roughly over 5 years now. So I'd imagine some of the projects I worked on during my first year at this point, they hopefully should have been constructed by now.
Yeah.
Um, but I also understand that construction takes several years, and it's possible that some of my projects from back then still aren't complete, and that's possible too.
So have you ever been able to go out into the field to see a project?
Yeah, so I've gone into the field for punch walks. So that's when the construction is complete and we're checking to make sure the construction is as per designed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've gone out on the field for punch walks before.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's kind of cool. I always enjoy seeing my work in the in real life. It's almost sometimes it's funny, like, oh man, I didn't think it looked like that. That's interesting.
That's actually one of the most rewarding parts of my job is when I'm designing something on paper and I get to see it constructed in real life. It's like, wow, I had an impact on this. Like I made these designs and it became real. Like that's very rewarding to me, and I wish everyone else could like get that sense of like fulfillment in their work.
Yeah, and to touch kind of on something you said earlier, where it's like um, what we do is for people, right? So it's used by
Yeah.
people,
Hmm.
and it's really cool to see the public. I do like road and highway type stuff. So I mean, I don't do bridge design, but we have some aspect into the bridge. It's cool to see the bridge being built, and it's almost it's I that's a similar enjoyment for myself. It's just cool to see it actually come to fruition.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
I got one more question for you for segment one.
Hmm.
What was your first non-engineering job?
My first non-engineering job.
Like, did you work at McDonald's or anything to that degree?
Oh, okay. So during my freshman year at college, I enrolled in a work study program, and I had the position of a computer lab assistant. So basically, my job was just to make sure the computer labs were all fully functioning, clean, making sure students weren't breaking the rules in the computer labs. So that was my first non-engineering job.
Gotcha. Is there anything that you learned with any non-engineering jobs that you still use today? Whether it's I don't know, just the integrity of showing up on time or anything to that degree?
Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of like the non-tangible stuff, like I've learned how to like schedule my or plan my schedule accordingly because I know I have to be at a place at a certain time. I'm also responsible for certain equipment and things like that. So the I would say the qualities I learned at a non-engineering job, I could have also learned that at an engineering job as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Were people pretty respectful of the computer, or was there like trash or gum ever stuck to it?
Um, for the most part, yes, but on occasion, so one of the rules in the computer labs is no food and drinks, but on occasion I'll catch someone eating, drinking, and I'll tell them to put it away, and they usually comply and they put it away.
Got to lay it
No
down.
one's, yeah, no one's given me a hard time.
That's good. All right. So I think that's good for segment one. I'm really interested to hear about segment two, which will be about you and escape rooms. So everybody stay tuned. We'll see if this is part of episode one or episode two, part one, or we're gonna split it into two parts. So see you soon.
All right, see ya.
So yeah, that wraps up part A of the two-part interview with Andros Nguyen. So episode 2A. Thanks again for listening. Next week or maybe the week after, I think I will be able to wrap up the audio version for part B, so that'll be episode 2B, where we get into the actual escape rooms, and that part of the interview is really interesting. I've only done one escape room in my life, so once the whole pandemic is over, I'm actually looking forward to getting out there and trying a bunch of other rooms, and hopefully being able to get into Andros's escape room. So all right, everybody, that's it for episode 2A. See you in the coming weeks. Thanks.